Okay, welcome to our last week of writing isolation. Now, this week, the first half of the week, we're actually going to create a rhyming couplet / quatrain story. Now, I'm not actually going to model that on the board because we know how to do that. I'm going to attach a document as to roughly what I want it to look like. So, thanks to Georgie, we had a look at the book Thunderpants Underpants. So that's like a story written in a rhyming couplet form and quatrain. Okay, so I'll give you some examples, and then what we're going to do for the first couple of days of the week is we're going to create our own and edit it, because we've been working on editing our writing, and some of us have been doing a really, really good job on that. So what will happen with that is I'll have an example up there of what it should look like, okay, in a Word document. So you just have to open the Word document and have a look. And it's going to be preferably you're going to write it about yourself. Okay, now you don't have to, but it's obviously you're yourself, so you know a lot more about yourself than anything else. But it has to all be on one topic, and it's going to end up like a bit of a story. So as I said, if you have a look at the example, because I don't need you to teach you the structure, because we already know the structure from last week. So we know that the basically, if we're doing a quatrain, line 1 and 4 can rhyme, line 2 and 3 has to rhyme, or line 1 and 2, lines 3 and 4, or lines 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. So totally up to you which ones you rhyme on, but we're going to write it in quatrain form, where basically they're going to be our paragraphs in our story, basically, the quatrains, but we're going to be creating that story. So as I said, you'll see that example when I do it, so I don't need to actually explicitly teach that this week, because that's what I did last week. We're just furthering on our writing abilities by being able to develop a story using that quatrain model. Okay, because we got the skills last week. This week, we're going to put those skills into place and actually create a story out of it. The new learning for this week, we're actually going to start creating some limericks. Okay, and these are my favourite parts of poetry, because you get to make fun of people in a light-hearted way. Okay, now there is a pretty strict structure in limericks. That has to be sort of followed for it to make a little bit of sense. Otherwise, you can go over a little bit here and there, but generally you have to stick to the structure. Otherwise, it doesn't quite make sense. So what a limerick is, it's like a funny, silly poem. Okay, now it needs to have 5 lines. Okay, so I've already got a few up here, so you can see my numbers 1 to 5. So I've created 2 limericks up here. So that's the first criteria. It needs to have 5 lines. The second criteria is it needs to, lines 1 and 2 and lines 5, they all need to rhyme. Okay, so I can see that I've underlined my rhyming words, because that's how rhyming works. It's at the end of the line, not in the middle of the line. So we figured that out last week. And my words in line 1 and 2 are Nick and Sick, and my line on line 5 is brick. So Nick, Sick and brick all rhyme. So lines 1, 2 and 5 have to rhyme. Then also lines 3 and 4 have to rhyme. Okay, so that's our second rule. First rule, needs to have 5 lines. Second rule, lines 1, 2 and 5 need to rhyme, and lines 3 and 4 need to rhyme. And our last rule that we must adhere to is our lines 1, 2 and 5, they need to be around 7 to 10 syllables. Okay, that's why we do all that work during our spelling in doing syllables, because it helps us out with this one. And lines 3 and 4 need to have anywhere between 4 to 7 syllables. Okay, now I will obviously put this on the paper, so you don't have to remember it, but this is the explicit instructions. So tell you what it needs. So it needs to have 5 lines. Lines 1, 2 and 5 need to rhyme. Lines 3 and 4 need to rhyme. And in lines 1, 2 and 5 need to have between 7 to 10 syllables. And lines 3 and 4 need to have between 4 to 7 syllables. And the last rule it needs to have is it needs to be silly. Okay, so that's the whole point of doing a limerick. So that we can have a bit of fun with that this week. So let's go through my ones. So, did you know about a man named Nick? His face was gross and made people sick. They would all spew, dogs would then chew. They all did this while throwing a brick. Okay, pretty silly. Now let's break it down in terms of the syllables. So, remember the syllables, you can either do the robot voice or put your hand under your chin, and every time your chin moves, that means it's a syllable. And the other rule is that in each syllable, there has to be a vowel. Okay, so just to reinforce that part of it, robot voice is the best one. But also you got the hand under the chin, and remember that each syllable needs to have a vowel in it. Okay, so let's identify the first one. So we'll do that in robot voice. Did you know about a man named Nick? Okay, so that was 9. Okay, so I had 9 syllables there. His face was gross and made people sick. Once again, I had 9 again. They would all spew. So that's 4. Dogs would then chew. 4 again. They all did this while throwing a brick. So that's 9. Okay, so let's have a look. So I've met the criteria because I've got my 5 lines. Lines 1, 2 and 5 rhyme. Lines 3 and 4 rhyme. I have between 7 to 10 syllables on lines 1, 2 and 5. I have 4 to 7 syllables on lines 3 and 4. And it is silly. Okay, so I've met the criteria for the first one. Let's have a look at the second one. There was once a lady named Sharon. Her best friend was Crazy Karen. They both loved to eat cat. This made them very fat. Once they were done with cat, they ate Helen. All right, so let's go through and make sure I've covered all the criteria for this one. So let's just start with the rhyming. So I've got Sharon, Karen, Helen. Okay, all rhyming there. So tick the box on that one. Cat and fat. Tick the box on that one. Let's have a look at the syllables. There once was a lady named Sharon. All right, so I've got 9. Her best friend was Crazy Karen. So 8. They both loved to eat cat. That's 6. This made them very fat. 6 again. Once they were done with cat, they ate Helen. Alright, so that's 10. Alright, so let's have a look. So lines 1, 2 and 5, definitely between 7 and 10. So I've got 9, 8 and 10. And lines 3 and 4 are between 4 and 7 because I've got 6. So I've met the criteria for that. And is it silly? I think it is. Okay, so I've met the criteria for that. So that is how we're going to create limericks. Now, a lot of limericks start was there once was, or I once knew, or something like that. Now, what I will do is you will have a video, my favourite video on limericks, okay, to help you out, as well as this video, to help you with understanding the process, okay. So, remember, first half of the week, we're focusing on using our skills that we learnt last week in terms of rhyming couplets and quatrains. We're bringing that all together and creating a story of either ourselves or something. And as I said, you'll have an example of that. And then in the second part of the week, we're going to focus on some limericks. And you're going to show me how silly and funny you can be, making sure that you follow this structure. Okay? So that is our writing for this week.